to be quite a showcase. We have a lot of distinguished panelists who are going to be joining us from a lot of prominent organizations, and so many great leaders out there are doing a lot of things, and we are happy to highlight a lot of them. So again, we want to thank everybody for joining us. If people are wondering where this is going to be on hbcunite.org/All-Star 2021, and you can follow at HBCU Unite on all platforms. So with that said, we're going to jump right into it. We have our distinguished panel joining us. So let's get into it. I want to introduce everybody, get the room light, right? I want to be a gentleman. I wanted to make sure I'm a gentleman, right, going into this. So we want to give everybody a warm introduction. So I'm going to start off with the Ashley Christopher. Ashley, what's up?
Thanks, Jay, for having me. My name is Ashley Christopher. I graduated from Howard University in 2007, and then the University of DC Law School in 2013. I'm the founder and CEO of HBCU Week Foundation.
All right. So next we're going to go to George Spencer. George, how you doing?
Well, thanks, Trey, for having me. Excited to be here. My name is George Spencer. I am a graduate of Norfolk State University, behold the green and gold, and I'm representing Thurgood Marshall College Fund, where I have the pleasure of serving as Chief Development Officer. Additionally, I head up the Innovation and Entrepreneurship segment.
Amazing. So next, I want to go to Ed Smith-Lewis. Ed, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, Dre. Thanks for having me. I'm Ed Smith-Lewis, Executive Director of UNCF's Institute for Capacity Building, and I'm a Morehouse man day to day. Excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely, brother. We're happy to have you. All right, so next we're going to go to a very distinguished brother, Thomas W. Dortch Jr. Mr. Dortch, why don't you give everybody a warm introduction? You're unmuted. I'm going to try to unmute you.
There you go. It's great to be here with the rest of the family. I'm Thomas Dortch, a graduate of the Fort Valley State University. Undergrad, got my master's Clark Atlanta University, and also I represent Florida A&M University as a trustee, and I hold 5 honorary doctorate degrees from HBCUs. I am the founder and chairman of the board of the National Black College Alumni Hall of Fame Foundation, founded in 1986.
Incredible. All right, I love it. And last but not least, we want to give a warm introduction to Luke Lawal. Luke, what's up, man? What's going on?
What's going on, man? It's Luke Lawal. I'm a Bowie State alum, graduated 2012. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, the greatest fraternity on the planet. And I'm also the CEO and founder of HBCU Butts, which, by the way, our 10-year anniversary is in March.
Quick little shameless plug. We're not gonna leave that out there, right, Luke? Nah, that's what's up, man. Congratulations on that. All right, so we're gonna start what everybody has been waiting for. We're gonna jump right into the panel, man. I really want to ask a lot of much needed questions, really to understand more so the developments, the stories, the inspiration behind everything, and a lot of the great work that you all are doing. So, as in true gentleman fashion, again, I'm gonna repeat. I want to start off with Miss Ashley Christopher. Ashley, HBCU Week Foundation, HBCU Week, amazing things you are doing with HBCU Week. I want to give you kudos. I want to tip my hat to you. So why don't you talk about that, like, and really dive into it? So what are some of the greatest moments, from your advocacy with HBCU Week?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I want to start off very briefly just telling you what the foundation is, because I'm the new kid on the block. Everybody on this panel, you guys are vets. You've been in the game for decades, right? So HBCU Week Foundation, it started in 2017. It was really just a small idea I had to engage about 200 students from my hometown of Wilmington, Delaware, with about 5 HBCU admissions counselors, because I wanted to get students excited about what HBCUs had to offer and to let them know all of the great things they could partake in by attending an HBCU. So when I started to market that event, the 200 kids I planned for spiked to 700. So the day of, like, the energy was incredible to see. So it was really nice to see that idea for 200 kids come to fruition with 700. So that was probably the first of my best moments of advocacy in the HBCU space. But the second one was more recently. So the foundation has been growing exponentially over the last few years. And just in 2020, my team and I, very proud to say we raised $10 million for the foundation. And that $10 million is going directly to our students for scholarship opportunities. Most significantly, we have a STEM scholarship initiative. So our partners over with the American Chemistry Council have underwritten $6 million in scholarships just for year one for 150 students to go to HBCUs and study STEM. So that was my second most powerful moment in the advocacy space, because I take it very seriously to speak on behalf of the kids that look like me and to provide this window or this door of access to opportunity, because a lot of them may not know what HBCUs are or think college isn't even an option, but there's so many options in the HBCU space. So like I said, I take it seriously when I'm in those rooms and advocating for them. So those will probably be the best two moments I've had so far.
And that's amazing. That just is a strong testament to your dedication. And it's a great example. It's a prime example of how you can evolve when you're really being intentional about the work. So love to hear it. And I'm a huge fan of HBCU Week. I'm gonna throw that out there. So the next speaker we're gonna ask to give another introduction on really our next question and really the inspiration behind the brands that he started. I'm going to go with Mr. Dortch, right? Mr. Dortch, you started 100 Black Men of America and you started the MBCA Hall of Fame. I mean, two prominent organizations that are going to leave a huge legacy, right, in the HBCU advocacy space. And, I just want to give you your flowers right now just for doing that and leading the way. So after you unmute your mic, right, can you share the inspiration behind all of that, because we would love to hear it.
Well, let me start, Dre, first with the Hall of Fame. In the early 80s, it had been going on for years, but in the early 80s, it kind of accelerated where people were questioning whether we needed historically Black colleges and universities. And the lie that was being told was our students could go to any college or university in the nation they wanted to go to. That was a flat out lie. And there were always barriers that were placed there. And then that people wanted to say that these institutions were inferior. So we said, rather than being on the defensive, we're going on the offensive. And so we started the National Black College Alumni Hall of Fame, and with the Hall of Fame weekend and others, just to show all of the great graduates of our institutions and what they have done. And so in '86, we founded the Hall of Fame, and we started with the Hall of Fame weekend. And let me tell you, even for me, every year it's a learning experience. Like Dr. Samuel Myers helped to work on the atomic bomb. Nancy Wilson, Lena Horne, these are graduates of HBCUs, but you can go down the line. Everybody knows Dr. King and everybody else. These are great graduates, and they continue. 6% of all Black lawyers. I can go on, but so we wanted to do that. And so today we do the Hall of Fame weekend. We do the legacy lecture tours. We have the Andrew Young Emerging Leaders Institute. We have the longest running Black college golf tournament in the nation. We continue on, Call the Manhood, Call the Womanhood. So there's so many. We've given millions in scholarships. So the Hall of Fame is still doing it, but more importantly, we're educating our own people and educating the world as to the greatness of HBCUs. I'm one of the founding members of the 100 of Atlanta, which with 9 of us, we formed the 100 Black Men of America. But in 1963, the first chapter, 100, was founded by the late Jackie Robinson, David Dinkins, and it was a total of 100 Black men. And we got our name because it was 100 who came together to fight then the problem with the justice system in New York. And today we see that's still manifesting itself today. But what we do in the 100 with over 125,000 young people, our program, we say what they see is what they'll be. We do mentoring. Again, we are in Africa, England, the Caribbean islands, all throughout the US. But the important thing is that Black men have come together and to dispel this thing that Black men were not shouldering the responsibilities for their community and their families. And we're showing them how we do it. And so those two organizations are phenomenal. This is my 7th term as a national chair. And again, I took it international in 1997. So we're still working hard. But the important thing, and again, I want to say, we partner with UNCF, Thurgood Marshall, NAFIO, because we do the HBCU Sustainability Summit, trying to get corporate America foundations and get us to invest into these great institutions.
That's amazing. So it's safe to say that you are a walking monument, if you will, right?
I'm a day laborer.
All right. I love to hear it, man. Look, wow, just a lot of context for us, right? A lot of good history. Congrats on all those initiatives, and major thanks to you, because a lot of that has contributed to the upward trajectory of HBCU. So I want to thank you for starting all of that, right? So for my next question, I want to make it all the way to a brother that actually started his own organization as well. He started it, because he was inspired by HBCUs also, right? So Luke, if you don't mind sharing, right, Luke, I want you to share your inspiration behind starting HBCU Buzz, because it has now grown to be, more so in the HBCU space, a more of a renowned name, at least between us. Like, everybody knows HBCU Buzz. So Luke, why don't you share some context on what the inspiration was, and share a little bit about the story behind HBCU Buzz. Luke, you there? All right, he may be experiencing technical issues. So we will now just proceed to the next question. And Luke, we can come back to you, not a problem. So my next question, and actually the next person I want to go to is actually going to be, I'm going to make it all the way to Thurgood Marshall College Fund, right? I want to talk to George Spencer. I mean, George, how did Norfolk State prepare you for your leadership role, essentially, that you have now with TMCF? Like, how did Norfolk State contribute to that?
Well, I'll tell you, I came from the Midwest, and the Midwest is known for being laid back, right? And so funny, quick but true story. I got recruited to play football there, and the guy that recruited me told me, man, you got to go here. It's the prettiest women you'll ever see, and you can see the beach from your dorm room. Well, one of those things was true. There was definitely some of the prettiest women I'd ever seen, but I could not see the beach from my dorm room. And it was a wake-up call for me, because I had visited some of the top campuses around the country. But my parents were graduates of HBCUs, Prairie View A&M, and I said, listen, I got a shot here, and I'm gonna make a drastic call. And so I went to Norfolk State, and it was a culture shock to me. I literally had never seen that many Black people, just sharp Black people gathered in one place. And I had heard about it. Again, I'd seen a little bit from my parents and my brother. He went to Paul Quinn. But me personally, what it taught me is the grit, right? The grit of things, because people will tell you, being transparent, everybody that looks like you is not for you, right? But I did learn at Norfolk State that the majority of folks, we were all after the same thing. And so I learned that grit, that hustle, and I think about the core values of Norfolk State. The number one thing is excellence. And so when we think about, W.E.B. Du Bois and Carter G. Woodson and all those folks, all of those folks promoted excellence, right? And so coming up from parents that are true Black historians, right, and talk about our culture, this all started to resonate with me when I got to Norfolk State. And so, the East Coast is known for a lot of different things, right? I said Midwest is more laid back. So you've got, you know, you got some of the sharpest folks that you'll find that doesn't negate the West Coast. I don't want to say that, but you've got some of the sharpest folks and most stylish and fashionable folks on the East Coast. So it kind of gave me a flavor and a mix of how I needed to kind of evolve as a person, right? Because where I came from, again, you know, we wore Dickies and T-shirts and Chuck Taylors, you know, and the guys told me, man, you look like a security guard. You got to tighten it up. So you know, it really, really taught me, man, you know, that there's more to life than kind of your own world, right? There's a whole world out there, and there's different people. Some look like you, some don't. But there's, you know, there's this thing called grit, and there's this thing called hustle. And if you can get it right, you may not be the smartest person in the room, but if you can outwork most people, you'll make it in life. And I think Norfolk State taught me a lot of that.
Absolutely. So you went from Behold all the way to Chief Development Officer at TMCF, man. That is incredible. Yeah. That is phenomenal.
Thank you.
So my next question is actually going to go to the brother Ed Smith-Lewis. Now, Ed, you're all the way in the AUC. You made it from the AUC, right? You wanted to become a Morehouse man, right? And that's commendable. So how did Morehouse, you know, prepare you to become an executive director, right, of UNCF? Like, how did that transpire?
Again, just want to echo the sentiment. Thank Mr. Dortch for all he's done to lead the way, and really appreciate this conversation tonight. If I'm honest with you, Morehouse transformed my life. I'm a first generation high school graduate. I lucked up and had a Morehouse alum, Third Baptist Church in San Francisco, reach out to me after I got accepted. And he said, look, young man, if you want to be in a place where you don't have to carry the weight and the burden of being the Black person in the room, you need to go to Morehouse College. And after he slid me a little scholarship check to make sure I go, I got on the plane and I jumped to Morehouse. And I have to say, after being accepted to Ivy League schools and beautiful, to someone's point, campuses on the West Coast. I mean, Pepperdine sits on a beach, right? I gave up all of that to go to Morehouse College, where I have to say I couldn't have made a better decision. What Morehouse does is it sets a high expectation. They say Morehouse puts a crown above her students' head and challenges them to reach it. That high expectation is missing in the community. And as a Black man who grew up in West Oakland, California, and went to public schools for the majority of his life, I was always the exception. Morehouse told me to calm down, that there are many of them like you. There are many people like us that can do great things. And what it did is it gave me three things. First, it gave me purpose, right? By lifting the weight of having to represent my race in all these conversations and places where I'm minoritized, it allowed me to find myself and what my real passion is. Thing two, and I went to some would say an elite prep school in high school, right? But what Morehouse did is it gave me foundational skills, not just academic ones, but social ones, political ones. How do you navigate spaces that aren't really made for you? And that idea of those foundational skill sets, not only on how to get things done, but how to think critically, how to engage with people in a meaningful way, how to be your authentic self. Morehouse College instilled those in me. And finally, it gave me an unwavering commitment to improving outcomes for Black people. Most HBCUs say, enter to learn, depart to serve. And that's what Morehouse did for me. And so how did it prepare me for my position today at UNCF? UNCF was founded in 1944 as a shared service for fundraising for Black colleges that didn't get support from anywhere else. That lack of investment in those institutions didn't allow them to raise the capital needed to have institutions worthy of our students. And so 10 presidents at that time came together in 1944 to form UNCF. Since then, we're now the second largest scholarship provider outside the federal government. Our work on public policy and government advocacy continues to transform not just the balance sheet, but the political practices that affect our institutions day to day. And my work in the Institute for Capacity Building is all about driving transformation. HBCUs have a history of shaping the future, but we're oftentimes pushed to the side and belittled and said that we don't have innovation. Here in the Institute for Capacity Building, we want to double down on the great innovators of our institutions, the quality, the capability. I always think of Clark Atlanta University's motto, find a way or make a way. Well, that's what we're doing here in ICB, and we're trying to do it with every institution out there, HBCUs and PBIs, because ultimately we're trying to close outcomes. So how did it help me? I mean, it gave me everything I have, right? And it showed me that I already had it. And that's what I think was most important.
Amazing, man. And look, every time I'm on, the phone, or if I run into a fellow, brother that's a part of Morehouse, so let me know he's representing the house. So I'm just glad that you were able to share all that. So appreciate that, man. And that's incredible. So I want to go back to Ashley, right? Ashley, now, not only were you a part of a Divine Nine organization, and I'll give you, some time to expand on that, but you went to 2 different HBCUs. So I actually want to ask, like, how is both collectively or all 3 of those experiences, right? How has that helped shape really helped you navigate, through your career and to be in the position where you can actually advocate for others?
Sure. So a lot of different pieces to the answer to that question. When I was at Howard, I became a member of Alpha Chapter Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. A shout out to Resurgent 41, spring 2006. But my experience with my line sisters and my experience just being a Howard student, and then also my experience through being on the Homecoming Steering Committee, because in 2006, I was Howard Homecoming Vice Chair. So all of those experiences collectively gave me the chance to finally go to a place where I could breathe, look to my left and my right. Everyone looked like me. Everyone was driven, ambitious, had goals. We were all there in the same fight. This is a time, your HBCU experience, this is what I tell people all the time that are coming behind me. This is the one time in your life where you'll be able to experience that. The one time where you don't have to be the minority. And I think it's so, so incredibly important to make sure we expose our kids to that reality, because what they get from this experience, it's often hard for me to put into words. And it gave me the confidence that I needed to walk into any room, no matter what the room is, and know that I add value, my presence is needed, and what I have to say is necessary. Now, I'm not saying there aren't moments where I don't have to talk myself into things, right? Like, because we get involved in some pretty heavy hitter corporate, meetings. So sometimes I'm in the bathroom in the mirror talking myself into things, but there's not a recognizable insecurity that you could see in me. I've learned how to talk myself into the space I need to be in to carry out those situations. And on the other side of that, Howard Homecoming, the steering committee was an incredibly heavy lift. Everybody knows Howard Homecoming's reputation. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people upon the nation's capital for Howard Homecoming every year. So being vice chair really gave me the backdrop that I needed for HBCU week, because what we do is we emulate an authentic homecoming-like experience. So we give the kids concerts, panel discussions, a church service, a battle of the bands. But our most significant opportunity is the college fair, where the student can come and interact with the admissions counselors, get accepted on the spot, be made aware of scholarship opportunities and receive those, some on the spot and some at a later date. So all of those experiences collectively have really shaped who I am today as the CEO of HBCU Week Foundation. And I'm telling you, without those experiences, I would not be here.
Wow. Powerful testament, because literally, like we say, we can look on ESPN and even hear about HBCU Week. So again, I just want to give you your flowers for all the amazing things that you're doing collectively with that. And it just makes sense. I mean, 2 different HBCUs plus the Divine Nine experience. I mean, of course, it was going to make, this incredible figure that is so influential. So thank you for all your work. I actually want to go to Thomas again, right? So Thomas, I want you to unmute again, right? So I want you to actually talk a little bit more about 100 Black Men again, because I'm a fan of just everything that you started with, with the Hall of Fame, but even with 100 Black Men. But I would actually want to know, what are some things that you were able to do to help facilitate and provide opportunities for either prospective HBCU students, current HBCU students, or even HBCU alum? Like, in the HBCU space, what has 100 Black Men been able to do for the HBCU community?
Well, the 100 Black Men, first of all, we mentor all of these young people. And the one thing that we've done is made sure they knew about HBCUs. And our students, again, in mentoring them when they go to any college, and that's why again with Dr. Michael Lomax when he was the president of Dillard. We talked about having a pipeline for our students to go to HBCUs, and he was working on having the HBCUs match us dollar for dollar because we give away millions each year in scholarships to students. And what I wanted to do was to make sure that we were sending them to HBCUs because we knew they would be nurtured, they would have leadership opportunities and all. And so what we do now still is that 100 is part of our partnership we do on HBCU Sustainability Summit. In addition to that, several of our members are presidents of HBCUs, and that's very important. But with our students, over 125,000, we become a major pipeline into these institutions. So we continue to do that. We also make sure, and I think it's very important as we look at the challenges that young people are having today, our students go to HBCU campuses with a focus on leadership, determination, and understand that they represent their family and represent our community, and they're going to be the ones who replace us and going to be the leaders. So we prep these students before they get to our campuses. In addition to that, we provide, as I said, scholarships, we provide training, we have internships that we have been able to facilitate with a number of corporations. We're working with Quest. We're working with Apple and others with direct opportunities for internships for students from HBCU campuses. We have a number of those partnerships, and we're working directly with HBCUs to make sure that these students are being brought in, because as you look at diversity, one of the things that 100 has tried to make sure to corporate America, what better place than on our campuses can you get better leaders? You look at Florida A&M University and the Rattlers. Dr. Sybil Mobley, when she was our dean of the School of Business, every Fortune 100 CEO had visited our campus. And so with that, we educate them. Look at North Carolina A&T for engineers. You look at Southern University for lawyers. And so we're trying to make sure those things are happening. We're partners, for example, with the Propel Center at Clark Atlanta University, a $50 million initiative placed on our campus, but it's for all HBCUs to participate in. So we're advocates. We've been to Washington, we've been advocates, we've been working with Congress to make sure, and we have 19 members of Congress that are members of the 100 Black Men organization. The other thing I think is important that we lead by example. I have 5 children, all adults now, all 5 went to HBCUs. My oldest daughter, Spelman, then my next oldest went to CAU. My next one went to the Fort Valley State. The next one, the Fort Valley State. And my last one, Florida A&M University. So every day you will never hear me speak anything about education and our members without talking about the importance of HBCUs. In addition to that, we've got mayors, the mayor of Montgomery and on down the line that are out there working to make a difference too, and they understand the value of HBCUs. We could not be where we are today in this country without historically Black colleges and universities.
I want to echo that sentiment so much. And I mean, clearly everybody here at this panel is a testament to that. So, you know, that's just incredible. There's a lot of things going on. And I just want to thank you again for all that you've done and all that you continue to do with 100 Black men. So I guess, you know, right now I want to jump to another question. The next question I want to jump to is for Luke. Luke, I know you might be having a little bit of technical issues. What's going on, man? We want to hear about HBCU buzz, right? We want to give the people what they want. Everybody has seen all the growth that has happened. So why don't we just do that? Why don't we just jump back into kind of the story behind it and the inspiration?
So when I was an undergrad, I was a biochemistry major. All my focus was centered around one, being an STA, trying to figure out how I can help my community, especially my HBCU community. And when I was in SGA, I was an external marketing director. And my job was to figure out how to bring different relationships to the university in the city of Bowie. And when I was fortunate enough to go for this retreat weekend with NASAP, I was able to meet different SGA presidents, go to different campuses and kind of network and see what other opportunities other HBCUs have to offer and what SGA presidents are doing differently to run their campus. And during that time, I developed a relationship with some our SGA counterparts at FAMU. And when I went down to Florida, I realized that there was so much that was going on in our community that people from the North or the East Coast, we just didn't know. Like we didn't know all the rich things that the campus leaders were doing. So when I came home, I was trying to figure out why anyone's not publicizing this, why every time HBCUs are mentioned in the media, we didn't have a real control over our narrative. So that's why I started HBCU Buzz. One, so that wouldn't be any tree falling in our woods in our community, and to make sure that we can constantly control the narrative of what's going on our campuses.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So thank you for sharing that. Because, you know, a lot of people, you know, look to HBCU Buzz as, you know, a prominent leader, especially on the digital landscape. So I definitely want to sit here and give you your flowers for everything that you've done collectively. You know, we've done tours together. We ran around, you know, flight to flight, from you know, arena to arena together. So it's just good for everybody to hear that, because the story is it's an inspiration. So I appreciate you sharing that. The next question I want to jump into is actually, we're going to go right back to TMCF, right? So George, what are some strategies that TMCF is implementing or has implemented to advance prospective college students or even current HBCU students?
Yeah, so I always like to say when I'm talking to partners, listen, you can't solve systemic issues with transactional solutions, right? So one of our strategies is really going deeper. You know, it's okay to give scholarships, but if you think about scholarships, they're transactional, right? You can get 10,000, 15, 20, whatever the number is, and then, you know, you lose sight of that student, right? Or there's no wraparound service to actually help support that student to help them become globally competitive. So a strategy that we've gone with is more so around building comprehensive plans, right? So when we think about comprehensive relationships, yes, we're going to provide access, or we'll help, you know, get that student to school, but we're going to actually help them get through school by the leadership development component of this, right? And so when we think about the structure of our partnerships, it's more so based off of the whole ecosystem, right? From the time they get access to school, from all of the wraparound services that we can attach on to a partnership. And so what we've learned strategically is that those are the ones that you get the better outcomes, right? So when companies now, they're not writing checks just to write checks. Well, we got some of that. Everybody got some of that during, you know, last year's social unrest, right? We know that. Yeah, it came in, and we're still probably going to see a little bit of that. But when you think about all of the ROI, you know, that companies now are looking for upon, you know, working with organizations like ours, is different, right? You can't just take the check and say, listen, you know, we did X, Y, Z. You have to have key performance indicators. You got to have every metric, you know, in the book really to show your value proposition. And so strategically, we've just got very, very intentional around developing programs that really focus on the entire ethos and ecosystem of, you know, helping that student to become globally competitive. And, you know, again, we want to build the next generation of leaders. And so, you know, I have the pleasure of actually, you know, looking at talent through the lens of entrepreneurship and innovation as well. And so another strategic, you know, methodology of ours was looking at, you know, untraditional talent, right? That you know, it's not the 3.5 or 4.0 student, you know, those students that are critical thinkers and ideators and those that, you know, are just out of the box, you know, thinkers and looking at entrepreneurial talent. Whereas, yes, we have programming that helps them develop most viable products, but we also look at entrepreneurial talent, right? Those that can be successful in the workforce and workplace. And so those, you know, those types of positions can go into research and development and marketing. And so looking at the collective group of students that we have and saying, listen, they all don't fall into one bucket. You know, there are various archetypes of students, and let me help identify them. You know, we have a lot of data and research that goes into predictive analytics that says, you know, these students, you know, will be the best, you know, fit for these organizations. And so it's very methodical. You know, we're very methodical and intentional on how we source and place talent, because it's one thing to acquire talent, but it's another thing for corporations to retain it. And if we're talking about changing, you know, the trajectory through economic mobility and all these things that fall under that, we have to retain talent when we get them there, right? And we have to have mentors that help them navigate this corporate jungle, because you have first generation corporate. You know, it's not just first generation scholars, and it's first generation corporate. Many of us and many of these students are the first in their families to go to a corporation, right, and work for these entities. And so those are some strategies. We're also developing some programming. We've actually developed programming around teachers and helping teachers become nationally board certified, and getting those teachers that look like us, you know, pedagogically, you know, prepared and developed so that they can, you know, become teacher leaders. And so, those are some of the strategies we're taking.
Very insightful, and that's incredible. You know, it's a very important piece of history for all of us when we're thinking about Thurgood Marshall College Fund. It's such a strong legacy to it, and it's just it's incredibly like rewarding to hear that there's just a lot of incredible things that you guys are doing on the strategy end for practices. So I want to stick to that, right? That subject matter, but I want to make it all the way over to UNCF now, right? We're jumping back and forth. So Ed, you know, what are some best practices or strategies, essentially, that the Institute for capacity building, right? Because that's a whole nother, you know, layer that I would like for you to break down for people again, when we're talking about UNCF. So what are some strategies that you are doing, you know, with that as it pertains to the HBCU space?
Again, thank you for the question. And just want to echo George's comments that as HBCUs, we enroll about 75% low income students and about 60% first generation students. And the goal of getting to college is oftentimes the pinnacle milestone in these students' lives. And how to navigate college, how to complete college, how to have the resources such that you're not saddled with debt at the end of the day is something both Thurgood Marshall and UNCF is fully committed to. As I said before, we are the largest scholarship provider, but we also provide over 400 programs ranging from student development and internship programs to student professional leadership programming. And it's important to provide those opportunities to our students, oftentimes because the institutions that we can think of, Spelman, Morehouse, Howard, you've heard a few of those today, aren't always enrolling all of our students. And where we're focused is on Rusk College and the great work it's doing in Holly Springs, Mississippi, Wiley College and home of the great debaters in Marshall, Texas. How do we get these opportunities and resources to those students that are often not thought about? And I just want to thank Thurgood Marshall for the work they're doing, and obviously just profound life goal for me to work on behalf of the United Negro College Fund. So what are we doing in the Institute for Capacity Building? We are trying to figure out what the future of education ought to look like and how can Black colleges lead the way as we get there. You guys know all of this, right? Student debt continues to be the largest, has the largest growth of any debt in our country, and it's saddled on the backs of mostly first generation low income students, many students who don't complete college. $10,000 in debt are keeping many Black people from achieving middle-class status, having lives of value and comfort for them and their families. And so where UNCF has pivoted its strategy most recently is to think about institutions as the tip of the spear. At the end of the day, students are showing up on our campuses with a hope. And we as institutions have a promise that we've given them, that higher education, if successful for you, can get you to the middle class. And so UNCF is trying to double down on those efforts. How are we going to do it? Well, we're focused on what we're calling an institutional resiliency strategy. We define resiliency as the institution to improve its operations today, the institution's ability to improve its operations today and future-proof it for tomorrow. It sits at the intersection of three major activities. The first is what we call institutional effectiveness. Think about that as the throughput. How many students in, how many students out, and what kind of experience are you giving them along the way? For so many students, college feels like a gauntlet. And for students who have families who are who are third, fourth, fifth generation college graduates, they can wrap them in the supports necessary to ensure they navigate that gauntlet. But for those low income first generation students, many of them hit that first wall and then drop out. And so we're trying to work with our institutions to say, how can we do more for those students? How can we streamline our processes to take it from a gauntlet to a place of nurturing? That's part one. Part two, academic competitiveness. George talked about this a bit, as did Thomas. This idea that we have to consider how the 21st century has changed. And what are those core skill sets, computer literacy, information literacy, project management, teamwork, etc., that we need to bake into those foundational skills, reading, writing, ethics, communication. But we have to do that with our faculty. We have to engage them in new pedagogical practices, and we have to shift how we are delivering content. And COVID has been a big wake-up call for many institutions in higher education in that regard. And then the last and most important is we have to figure out the financial viability of our institutions. Despite tuition increases less than the average for higher education, college still costs too much for Black students. And as an organization, we continue to advocate for doubling Pell. Everyone out there, write your senators. We want to double Pell because we have to find a way to lower the cost burden to our students. But we also want to work with institutions on finding better fundraising strategies, improving their operations to reduce costs. And what our game-changing bet is if we can go back to a community of institutions, think about the network and the power within this network of Black cornerstone institutions. How can we work together to solve our joint problems? And so that's what we're doing here. We've been very successful. We launched a $50 million career pathways initiative 4 years ago. On every KPI, back to George's point, our institutions on average are doing better. And we just launched an executive leadership institute for presidents and board chairs because leadership matters. We have to make sure our governance structures are appropriate, a strategic finance institute, and look out for the opportunity for UNCF and a set of HBCUs to jump into the online learning game. We're very excited about the opportunities that are happening here, and our focus is on improving institutional resiliency such that our legacy and cornerstone institutions continue for generations to come.
Amazing. And a lot of that is, pretty much the entire overall operation and the approach is so important, right? Because you're on one end, it's like, we don't want to leave any HBCU behind, and at least in the member schools, right? Because we know that there's member schools assigned, but we also know that, look, we're all in support of HBCUs, we're all representing, and we're all pushing and rooting for HBCUs. So that's important. But then there's also, it's no child left behind. So you also want to make sure those students, those prospective college students from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and these lower income cities are also getting the opportunities to really learn about a lot of these scholarship initiatives and scholarship opportunities that are literally created for them. So that's just incredible. And, again, I just want to applaud UNCF for everything that they are doing in the HBCU advocacy space. I think at this point we're going to commence, but I just want to ask, Ed, these questions are going to be for Ed and George, right? So Ed, we got the All-Star game coming up tomorrow, right? Team LeBron, Team Durant. Who are you going for?
All day, every day, and it's a little bit of town business, but I'm Team Durant, hands down, not only because they're going to support UNCF and our private Black colleges, but also because someone needs to set down Bronny Braun.
Uh-oh. He said it. All right, now I'm going to George. George, talk to me. Are we going for Team LeBron or Team Durant?
I'll never, deprecate the value of somebody representing someone from their home team. So, you got to do that. You got to show love for KD, I guess. But we all know who the greatest is right now. LeBron is going to shut him down. He's representing Team TMCF. We're excited. Listen, I mean, in all seriousness, while I'm rooting for obviously Team LeBron, I'm rooting for all of us, and I'm rooting for every person that is advocating on behalf of HBCUs. I think you all are doing some tremendous work. I'm not going to steal your wrap-up thunder, Dre, but I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the great work that you, as I consider my peers and colleagues in the HBCU space, are doing. So kudos to all of you guys. I heard some amazing things this evening, and I'm glad that that the NBA was actually a founding partner of TMCF, and it is huge for them to be recognizing at this level, supporting HBCUs. And LeBron has stepped up and been a voice and an advocate in a way that we hadn't seen in many years. But kudos to all of you guys. I'm excited about LeBron. I'm excited about the HBCU recognition tonight. And again, kudos to all the work you guys are doing.
Absolutely. And thank you. I mean, it takes a village, right? Collectively, it takes a village. But also, I mean, we got a little bit more time. I kind of want to get an answer from, Thomas, Ashley, and Luke, right? It's a big game coming up tomorrow, right? But it's team, I don't want to say Team LeBron and Team Durant. I'm going team TMCF, team UNCF. If you ask me, I'm rooting for every HBCU. I'm rooting for TMCF and UNCF. I want there to be a tie, and I want 100 million to go to both organizations.
The question probably shouldn't be who you're rooting for. Who do you think is going to win? Honestly, I mean that's
hey,
we all root for it.
That's also a great point too. We'll go to Thomas. Thomas, what are you thinking?
Well, let me tell you where I am. I have to go with. I'm rooting for a great game for HBCUs, but I have to go with LeBron. LeBron just signed an agreement with Nike. And Florida A&M University is the first HBCU in the rollout with LeBron. And LeBron will be wearing a FAMU specially minted sneakers on tomorrow night. But he will be working with several HBCUs and working with Nike. And we're about to ink another 6-year deal with Nike at Florida A&M University. We're leaving MEAC to go over SWAC. We're in the SWAC conference now, but Chris Paul, all of them have really stepped up in support of HBCUs. His brother went to Winston-Salem State, and we look at all of the folks. But for me, I'm supporting any NBA star that supports HBCUs.
Hey, well put, indeed, and I concur. I can echo that sentiment 1,000%. We're gonna go to Ashley right now. Ashley, what are you thinking? I mean, again, we got a great game coming up, and I love all the implementations that are going on for HBCUs. By the way, shout out to the NBA for doing that. But Ashley, who are you rooting for?
Yeah, so I mean, most people probably aren't gonna like when I say this, but this is always my explanation. I'm rooting for Team LeBron. I have been a LeBron fan since St. Vincent, St. Mary. I wasn't watching basketball back in '96, so LeBron is my Michael Jordan. So I'm always rooting for LeBron, no matter what team he's on. I think he's an incredible advocate for Black and brown people outside of his passion for basketball. So I'm rooting for LeBron, Team LeBron all day.
All right, that's a lot of Brown fans. Hey, we're gonna skip Luke because he's from DC. No, I'm just playing. Luke, talk to me, man. What are we thinking? Team LeBron or Team Durant?
Oh man, I am from the greatest county on the planet. It's called Prince George's County. I don't know if you guys know that, but here in the DMV area, we idolize the athlete known by the name of Kevin Durant. And ever since I was fortunate enough to watch basketball, I've been a Kevin Durant fan. I remember when Kevin got drafted to college, and I was like, that was big for my hometown, is what I'm saying. And I'm always going to be a KV advocate and a Kevin Durant fan. I think he's definitely by far the greatest basketball player on the planet. So let's just start there. And as of today, I feel it really, really sad to let you guys know that I'm going with Team LeBron. only because Chris Paul is on Team LeBron, and everything Chris Paul has been doing for HBCUs is just phenomenal. I credit him as one of the athletes that really created this catalyst and interest in HBCUs last year. And just being able to watch him put on every single HBCU week after week was just amazing. And, you know, you just can't vote against that today. So I'm Team LeBron today.
Wow. So look, that's an end with a twist, right? Luke is from DC. Luke is from Prince. Luke. But look, man, I respect it. I understand. Again, shout out to the NBA for doing all these amazing initiatives for HBCUs. It is much appreciated. We need as much exposure and light. And don't stop here, right? It shouldn't stop here. It should always continue. We would love to see more developments, more partnerships, more funds that are given to these students from the lower socioeconomic areas, because it is an opportunity for them that is important. And we just want to be able to try to help project that. So again, shout out to the NBA, shout out to everybody joining us. We are going to check out. I want to appreciate this distinguished panel. Luke, you want to jump off? You want to jump in real quick? I want to go in gallery mode. I want to give a huge thanks to this entire panel. I mean, this has just been incredible. I've truly am a fan of each and every one of you, and I admire each and every one of you. Definitely wanted to give you your flowers today or tonight. And then, I just want to say thank you so much, and keep doing the amazing work that you're doing. It is not going unnoticed, and it is very important and much needed. So again, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you for tuning in. Everybody have a good night.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
All right, so we just ended the stream. We're good, y'all. Like.